The Way Home, Chapter 2. From Bad to Worse. The van bounced and rattled along, finally coming to a stop. Sid and I, listening to the driver talking on the phone for a moment before getting out. Wide-eyed, she turned to me and asked what was going on, as if I knew. I shook my head and closed my eyes, trying to concentrate. I couldn't think of a single thing that made sense. An overwhelming sense of dread rolled through me when I heard a voice I had never hoped to hear again. My father. Is he in there? Without responding, the driver opened the cargo door. I won't lie and say I hadn't wondered how they'd held up over the years, but nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to see. My father had always been a big man, a little over 6 feet tall and somewhere around 300 pounds. Now he was frail and thin. His dark hair was gray, and he looked 50 years older. I almost didn't recognize him. He looked at me for a moment, then turned his attention to Sid. "Who's the girl?" As the driver explained the situation, something inside me snapped. "What is this? Who are you?" I was quickly silenced by the driver using the butt of his shotgun to knock me out. Things got a little fuzzy after that. I was drifting in and out of catching glimpses of faces or hearing the occasional voice. By the time I was fully conscious, I was in my old room. The window was boarded shut, and the furniture was gone, but I knew every square inch of that place. There was no mistaking it. Sitting up, looking around, I noticed the door was open. I took a second to get past the throbbing headache and stand up. The minute I was on my feet, my stomach lurched, and I puked my guts out. Stepping into the hallway was surreal. A euphoric mix of bad memories and long nights sifted through the fog in my brain, reminded me of why I left. The ghosts of those old arguments seemed to bounce off the walls around me as I headed for the front door. Every helpless, hopeless emotion surged through my body, overloading my mind with the sensation of living through them again. Stopping in my tracks, I closed my eyes and took a deep breath to fight off the oncoming panic. As my heart rate came down and my muscles relaxed, a rotten funk filled my lungs, causing me to gasp. I don't know how I hadn't noticed it before. Maybe it was the concussion or the shock of the situation, but in either case, I could smell it now. The reality of where I was standing sank in as I glanced around. The house looked as if it had been abandoned. All the windows had been boarded, and what little furniture there was sported a thick layer of dust. Everything in me wanted out, but I couldn't stop the flashbacks. One of the few good memories I had of my parents was watching Saturday morning cartoons and eating breakfast together. I could see it so clearly. It brought a smile to my face. What happened next threw me for a loop. A random memory of another kid being there with us. He was older than me, but I didn't know who he was. Just as fast as the image flashed in my head, he was gone. Maybe I was remembering it wrong. Could have been from another time, and my brain was scrambled. Putting it out of my head, I moved forward to the front door and caught a glimpse of the kitchen. From where I was standing, I had a clear view of the refrigerator and the stove. There was something dark and chunky splattered across the floor. I took one step closer and stopped. "Hell no," I muttered to myself, then turned and went for the door, fully expecting it to be nailed shut. Grabbing the knob, turning it, and praying, I pulled, and it creaked open. I sprinted across the yard and didn't stop running until I was 2 blocks away. That's when it hit me. Sid. I couldn't leave her there, but I didn't know where to look. The truth of the matter was, I wasn't going to be much help if I got caught. I needed a place to hide. Once I was off the street, I stuck to the rails and tried to stay out of sight. It didn't last long. After a few minutes, Adam and 2 other guys casually jogged up to me with a big smile on his face. He motioned to one of the others. "You see? I told you we'd find him here. Pay up." I recognized the big guy he was talking to. It was George Haskins. He dug into his pocket and forked over 20 before looking me over. "Ah, it's good to see you, Vic." He spat sarcastically before taking a swing at me. Even winded, I was faster than this guy. Dodging his punch while throwing a well-placed uppercut, I caught the chin and made his teeth click. He responded with a heavy left to my gut that threw me off balance. I managed to slip past his neck swing and connect with a hard right to his temple that made his knees buckle. Then Adam called out, "That's enough," while pulling a pistol. Stepping back, I put my hands up and winced from the slight pain in my ribs. Motioning with a gun, he directed me to a path that led us to the back of a small shopping center where they had cars waiting. I rode with Adam, and the others followed in a second car. The moment we were on the road, he started talking to me like this wasn't a kidnapping. "So, Vic, you have to tell me, what have you been up to?" I paused for a second before responding. "What have I been up to? That's what we're leading off with? Fuck you. What is this? Why'd you drag me back here? And where the hell's Sid?" Adam smirked and let down his window. "Oh, I wouldn't worry about her right now. I'm pretty sure she's doing a lot better than you. I just do as I'm told. We were sent here to find you, and we did. Now I'm taking you to your old man and the rest of the dusty bunch so I can get back to my life." The conversation didn't go much further. I opted to sit silently while I tried to come up with an escape plan. It's funny. Life ain't like the movies. It's hard to focus on one thing when you keep thinking about dying. I say that because I didn't come up with a plan. I couldn't. The next thing I know, we're pulling up at the hospital. Adam handed me over to a pair of guys in scrubs, and I was taken to an office in the psych ward. 20 minutes later, a woman wearing a doctor's coat walked in. "Hello, Victor. It's been a long time." I took a second to study her face. She didn't look familiar. Smiling and taking a seat at her desk, she laughed. "I'm not surprised you don't remember me. I'm Dr. Monroe. You were a toddler the last time I saw you. I mostly treated your older brother, Carter." I wanted to laugh, but something about the look in her eyes told me she was serious. I suddenly remembered that flashback with the older kid. My mind launched off in a million different directions while she droned on before realizing I wasn't paying attention. Snapping her fingers to bring me back, she spoke up. "You look healthy. That's good. Hopefully, you'll last long enough to get at least 3 or 4 batches." Before I could blurt out a question, a pair of oversized orderlies came in and drugged me out. I put up a fight and managed to break free, but I ran into a problem when I tried to get away. I heard 3 little words: taser, 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 then a loud pop, and 50,000 volts sent me face first into the floor. I wish I could say I blacked out. Instead, I flopped around on the ground and pissed myself while they stuck a needle in my neck and tossed me in a secure room. It wasn't long before my father came in with Philip Gentry, Adam's father, and Dr. Monroe. There was no need to strap me down. The drugs made my body feel like mud. I could barely move. My father stepped over to my bed and stood scowling me down. "Look at what you've done." "I hope it was worth it," Mr. Gentry chimed in. "Relax, Frank. You should be happy. Your boy just saved your life. Let's give the doctor some privacy so they can get started." The 2 of them left the room and the nurse came in. I was prepped. Then Monroe shoved a needle in my spine that took fluid. I was left alone for a while after that. Eventually, the nurse returned carrying a familiar vial. She uncorked it and then held it under my nose, forcing me to breathe it in. A warm sensation surged down my body in waves that crashed against my brain and warped the world around me. I could see sounds and hear colors. The air tasted fresh like honey. Syrupy sweet goodness filled my lungs as the lights above me became a glowing sun. It was an amazing, and it was horrifying. The walls melted away, revealing a sky so blue it made my eyes hurt. High in the clouds, I could see massive black birds circling overhead while my body floated, as if it were being swept away by the tide. The further I went, things slowly started getting back to normal. I was on a gurney being wheeled through a corridor. My vision finally cleared as we entered a large room lined with beds. Most of them were empty and looked like they hadn't been used in a while. Next to each station stood strange-looking machines that appeared both ancient and new, like something out of a steampunk novel. After a few seconds, we stopped in front of a bed with an old woman in it. She was rail, thin, and pale. I honestly thought she was dead, till I saw the heart monitor. There were metallic tubes running from the machine to her spine with a second set linked to some sort of helmet. It was strapped to her head so tightly it distorted her features. The machine had two small glass tanks that were partially filled with a milky liquid. One of the men wheeling me through the room stopped to check the machine before calling out, "This one's done. Take her to recycling and send the samples to the lab." I couldn't see who he was talking to, but it didn't matter. Whatever this was, I knew it wasn't good. I was taken to a station and set up with a machine of my own. After a few minutes, Dr. Monroe came in with a nurse. The doctor looked at me while the nurse got the machine prepared. "Looks like we found you just in time. Our last donor expired sooner than expected." I summoned up enough strength to get out a few words. "Why are you doing this?" I asked through gritted teeth as the nurse rolled me onto my side. Dr. Monroe stood near the foot of my bed holding a clipboard, thumbing through the small stack of papers attached to it. "Oh, Victor, this is your purpose. Enough small talk. Let's get you harvesting. I'm sure your father can't wait another day." Intense pain surged through my body as something was attached to my spine. I could hear the machine starting up with a low hum. The pain faded but was replaced by the sensation of being drained. I could feel the energy being pulled out of me. All I could do was groan and try to move, but it was hopeless. The nurse rolled me into a position and began strapping one of those helmets to my head when alarms sounded somewhere in the building. "Jesus, what is it now?" Monroe hissed as security guards went running by. One of them stopped and spoke with her. "Doctor, the new patient is proving to be hostile. She's attacked two orderlies and managed to escape her room. Yeah, it's best if we get you to a secure location." She agreed and was escorted away along with the nurse. I guess the nurse was rattled by the news because the helmet wasn't fully strapped on. It had to be Sid. The thought of her raising hell almost made me smile as they hurried away. Once they were out of sight, I set my mind on getting free. Screaming a little, I managed to get the helmet off and rolled back to my side. It took everything in me to slip the legs off the bed and sit up. I couldn't reach the thing attached to my spine, but I hoped it would come off when I stood. Taking a deep breath and rocking to gain momentum as I winced and got up. My legs felt like jelly. They were barely able to support my weight. Taking a step forward, I crashed to the ground, detaching from the machine with a wet suction sound. An icy cold shockwave rippled across my skin, making me nauseous as I crawled to the edge of the bed and pulled myself up. Trying not to focus on the pain, I staggered from station to station until I was at the door. The drugs were starting to wear off and I was slowly coming back to my senses. The sound of the alarm was driving me crazy. Stumbling into the hall, I used a handrail on the wall to guide me. Ahead of me on the right was a door leading into another room. Judging by the footsteps I was hearing, I didn't have long. Picking up the pace, I got inside and hid in a supply closet long enough to get myself together. After a few minutes, I could feel my strength coming back. I didn't have time to wait. They'd find out I was gone, and they would come after me. When I thought the coast was clear, I snuck back into the hall and got moving. The hospital was a lot bigger than I remembered it being. I'd never seen this section of the building. As my strength came back, I went from walking to a slight jog, moving from hall to hall, hiding when I had to. I made it to an emergency exit. I figured with all the commotion, no one would notice another alarm going off. Hesitating for a second, I thought about Sid. The moment was cut short by someone yelling, "He's over here." Glancing back, I see a handful of guards running towards me. It was now or never. Sorry, Sid, I muttered to myself as I took the opportunity and got away from there. I'm not sure how I lost them. I like to think I outran them, but it was more likely they let me go. Whatever this was, whatever they wanted, they weren't going to get it. Now all I had to do was get Sid out of there. As much as I hated my old man, something he said a long time ago replayed in my head. When there's nowhere to go, go nowhere. I can't say I fully understood what he meant, but what I took from it was, be still long enough for whatever you're running from to pass you by. With that in mind, I went to the only place I could think of, the old house on the edge of town. I didn't expect it to be there. I thought for sure they would have bulldozed it after finding Ben's body, but to my surprise they hadn't. Seeing it felt like greeting an old friend. I smiled to myself, thinking of Glenn sitting out front drinking hot beer. It was sad. This run over down house felt more like a home than where I'd actually lived. Other than some thick overgrowth and a few piles of junk, the place looked to be the same. I walked back around to where they found Ben's grave. The area had been cleared, but I could still make out where he was buried. For a moment, I wondered if Glenn had killed him. I knew the meth story was bullshit, but if he hadn't done it, who did? After a few minutes, I went inside and found the place to rest. Oddly enough, the old hiding spots were untouched. There wasn't much there, just a lantern, some rolling papers, and 2 cans of beer. After 5 years, I was sure they weren't any good, but I drank them anyway. I spent most of the night watching the path in, and eventually fell asleep. The morning sun warmed my face, pulling me out of my dreams. My body hurt. It was hard to move, and the old beer left me with a bad case of bubble guts. It took most of the morning to get myself together. I couldn't stop thinking about Carter. Why didn't I remember him? When I really tried to think back, there was a huge gap in my memories. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't remember anything before my 8th birthday. After a while, I had to stop thinking about it. I needed to focus on getting Sid out of the hospital and getting us both out of town.